Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Pressbox Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chet Chesko.
It's Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024. Welcome to the Philly Pressbox Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, and Cavs Philly Tailgates. I'm Bill Furman. I'll be your host tonight, along with my partner, Jim Chet Chesko. And Chet, the Eagles are coming off their best win of the season, a 28-3 beating of the Giants. The Flyers have played only 6 games, but find themselves in dead last in the Metropolitan Division with just 3 points. The Sixers open their season tonight, minus a couple big stars. We'll be making our preseason predictions for the Sixers. We will also make our weekly NFC East predictions for the week. We got a lot going on. We're even going to talk a little wing bowl. I thought that was going to die, but it just won't die. We have plenty to talk about, as always, in Philly sports.
Never a dull moment on the Philly sports scene, Bill. And yes, I attended the world premiere Tuesday night of a documentary about Wing Bowl, and I'm going to have my review later in the show. Try to contain your excitement, everybody.
Well, looking forward to it. Saw your pictures you posted on Facebook. Looked like it was a good time, and you got to meet up with some of the stars of that, or creators of that, whatever you want to call it. So I'm kind of excited to see how that all came out.
I ended up sitting almost right behind Angelo Cataldi, the row behind him, 2 seats over. I talked with Mikey Miss after the show. He was there. Said hello to Ray Diddy as well. Didn't get a picture with Ray, but Ray was there. Just briefly said hello to him. Many of the competitors from Wing Bowl over the years. A good time and interesting movie. You'll get my review later.
All right. Sounds good. Hey, we have a great guest tonight making a return visit to Philly Pressbox Radio in Inquirer.com. Sixers beat writer Keith Pompey joining us to break down the new look Sixers team and a whole lot more, as we found out the 2 big stars are not playing tonight.
Yeah, and we will talk about that, you and I, after we show the interview. We had to pre-tape the interview before all the major news broke, so we kind of left that up in the air, and then you and I will address that after the interview airs. And we will make our fearless predictions for the Sixers season. But, hey, let's get right to it. For obvious reasons, as I said, we had to pre-tape because, Keith's a little busy tonight. But here is our conversation.
Welcome, Keith Pompey, back to Philly Pressbox Radio to cover all things Sixers. Keith, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Full disclosure, first of all, to everybody out there, the Sixers tip off their season Wednesday at about 7 o'clock, which is when we air our show. So we're taping this interview with Keith Monday evening, about 48 hours before the Sixers begin that season. We don't know, as we're taping this, if Paul George and or Joel Embiid will be in the starting lineup. So there's that. Let's talk about the health of these guys. Keith, what's your take? How healthy are they? And is it all about preserving them for the playoffs this year?
The George thing is he does have the bone bruise. He hyperextended it. In regards to Embiid, I think, let's face it. I think Embiid came back too soon. There was 7 games left in the season, and you looked at him, kept falling to the floor in the playoffs. I personally think that he shouldn't have played in the Olympics. I don't think he made it worse, but I think the rest that he should have had, now he's trying to take it now. So, yeah, it is a ramp-up process, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's 100%. And that's what they're trying to get it to be. So, yeah, for both of them. But the thing about Paul, he has a bone bruise. And sometimes they say the best thing for that is take 2 weeks off. And right now it's only been a week. So if you're saying to yourself that you want to basically be 100% for the playoffs, well, then that means you need to take at least a couple more days off.
Keith, you mentioned Joel Embiid in the Olympics. I thought he was fabulous for the most part, playing with the stars. He was certainly a star. I think we kind of hoped that was going to carry over and bring some energy to this season? It doesn't seem like so.
No, it doesn't. The one thing that I will say, Bill, that everybody's talking about, and I keep going back and saying, are y'all sure? Are you sure? A lot of people are talking about that by him being a part of that team, he learned that he really can't do it by himself. He learned that it's one of those things where it doesn't matter anymore how many points you score, this and that. Now, everyone keeps saying that, and they think that is going to be the energy that he brings, and things like that once the season starts. Like, he's going to bring more leadership. He's going to be more selfless. Me personally, I keep saying to people, I have to see it. And that's not a knock against Joel, but typically guys who are elite players, they always want to be the man. And is he going to be okay by setting screens and passing the ball and doing all this other stuff? I feel like that he's still going to want to be the best guy on the team. So for me, I have to see it.
We heard last week that he'll probably not play any more back-to-backs. They want to make sure he's healthy for the playoffs. So with that in mind, how many games do you think we're going to see Embiid, George, and Maxey on the court together this season?
Well, so there's 82 games. I think Joel might miss like 30 games, like 25, 30 games. Wow. I want to say maybe 40-something, maybe 50, maybe, right? I don't see we'll see a lot of them think that we'll see him on the floor a lot if he misses this many games, right? Yeah. So I don't see it. I don't see it a lot, no.
Well, Keith, that always troubles me about the NBA anyway, and you kind of led right into it. It's really a matter, it almost seems like it's a matter of finishing in the top six. It's just this, the regular season has become an exercise to get to the playoffs. Hope you guys are healthy. Take the fans' money, though, wherever you can. But the important thing is to just finish in the top six, and it makes the regular season more kind of meaningless.
Yeah, it does. It does. And that's the hard part, right? The league is trying to bring it back, right? Because remember before it was all about load management. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, you got to play in 65 games to do this and do that. But it got to a point where I don't know how many times where, and especially when the Sixers played the Miami Heat, where you would go to the arena and you're asking yourself, who's this guy that's going to be the fifth starter? You know what I mean? It's just got to a point where it became meaningless. And it was, for some people, they'll save up. These tickets cost a lot of money, and they'll save up their money to get a ticket like for a year or so, get the hotel room. They'll fly in from another place just to see the guy that they wanted to see, their idol, and they get to the game and he doesn't play. And it's kind of like, I really don't want to be here because I don't know who these guys are. You know what I mean? So the league needs to correct that.
Tyrese Maxey is good to go with his thumb. He said at Sixers Media Day that he expected there would be growing pains this year, given the numerous new faces on the team. How much pain we talking about, do you think, Keith?
You know what? I think he's right. I think the biggest growing pain is going to be getting Paul George more like in the mix with the other two. Like when you look at Paul George, he's used to coming from, the Clippers where, he and Kawhi were the stars. Kawhi was hurt most of the time. Paul was too. But when Kawhi was out, it was all about Paul George, right? Elite and everything. So now you come in and you have to figure out like, okay, how am I going to play off of Maxey? When the games are close, when do I take over? Am I going to be the closer? Like, what is my role going to be? And if you're Tyrese Maxey, the last year it was all about, it's me and Joel. And now I have to incorporate another guy in here. And the growing pain comes from that Tyrese Maxey had 3 games where he scored 50 or more points. Well, if I try to take over like that, now that we have another guy, am I going to be shooting the ball too much? So to me, I think the biggest growing pain for them is learning how these two guys are going to adjust. Because as much as Joel Embiid says what he says of him deferring, Joel Embiid is by far the best player not by far, but he is the best player on the team. So other guys got to try to fit in playing around him and then also fit in playing off of each other.
Speaking of Maxey, Keith, is he ready to still take another step and kind of move into the elite in the NBA? He sure got way better over the last year.
I think so, yeah, because when we look at Maxey like last year, as great as he was, when Embiid wasn't on the floor, he became easier to defend in fourth quarters. Like when it was time to teams would blitz him. And they knew that he didn't have anybody else on the floor that could guard him. He did show some improvement on the defensive end, right? But at the same time, he was also being attacked out there, depending on who they played. I think that the growth for Maxey is in the fourth quarters, and I think that Paul George will help out with that. Defensively, I think he needs to take a step there on a be more consistent basis. But I also think that, when we look at Tyrese, he's a scoring point guard, right? He became an all-star being a scoring point guard. But now that he has other guys, like he has Eric Gordon who can knock down threes, he has Paul George. Like the key for Maxey is being able to get them easier shots, right? Like, anybody could come off and just pass the ball to a wide open 3-point guy. But now the next step is when he sees a guy going to the rim, throw up the lob. When you see a guy like crashing, do a bounce pass or do a pass that make it like that you could get him an assist going to the basket. So I think those are the two next steps that Tyrese Maxey has to make to become to go onto the upper echelon of point guards in this league.
On the nights the big three are all in the lineup, who are the other two starters? Is it going to be Oubre and Caleb Martin or somebody else?
You know what? Initially, everybody thought it was going to be Caleb Martin, right? The last 2 games or 3 games he didn't start. It was more or less Eric Gordon. But I do think that's just because Paul George wasn't around. What you do is you need somebody to, stretch the floor. I think that when you do have a Paul George out there, we all know how lethal he is from 3. Right, that Kelly Oubre can do other things. I think the thing about when you have a Caleb Martin out there with them in that starting lineup, you need a guy who can be the glue guy. And I think those are things that he can do. He'll defend, he'll set screens, he'll do all the things that you won't see on a box score, right? So I think when you have those 2 guys together, those 3 guys out there, I think that it will be wise for the Sixers to play him. Aside from that, I think that you want a guy who's going to create space for Paul George and Tyrese Maxey, and Eric Gordon can do that. But when Embiid comes back, I do think that Caleb Martin is the best 5th starter for the team.
Well, if Embiid does play, say, 50 games like we were talking about, Andre Drummond now becomes a huge part of this team. If he's going to play 30-plus games as a starter, 12 years in the league, can we expect anything big from Drummond or just kind of hold the line?
I think it's going to be more of hold the line. I think teams won't destroy them on the boards like they did in the past when Embiid wasn't there. But the crazy part is, Drummond is in a tough spot. Now, he is a great backup center. Right, he was a 2-time All-Star, 4-time rebounding champion as a starter. But
the self-proclaimed best rebounder in the world.
Yeah. When he looked at us and doubled down quick, fast, in a hurry. Right, but the thing is, I think that it's kind of like you're asking a lot from him to be that guy to provide the same stuff. I think that he's good with Paul and Maxey in regards to just running the rim and grabbing boards and doing outlet passes. But I don't see them, saying, hey, we're going to run our offense through you like they do with Embiid. So he's a legitimate good for a change of pace. But I think that if you ask him to be the difference maker in games, not a knock against him, but I feel like it's going to be more more online with what Maxey and George does, and we're going to look and grade him by how many rebounds he grabs and stuff like that.
Well, as I put up the Sixers' full roster, which includes a couple of two-way guys, and that's pretty much impossible to read, by the way. There are 17 names on there. That includes, like I said, a couple of two-way guys who will spend much of their time in Delaware. There are a lot of options. Has Nick Nurse yet decided, do you think, on a rotation? Who are the guys that are going to get a lot of playing time off the bench?
Right now, it looks like the guys who are going to get a lot of playing time off the bench are going to be, one is the Dancing Bear, Yabusele. I believe he's going to play a lot off the bench. I think Eric Gordon, right, when he's not starting, he's going to play a lot. The same thing with Caleb Martin, who's going to be, one of those guys starting. Drummond. It seems like a guy that they really liked in the preseason. I don't know if it's going to change when they ramp things up. Jarrett McCain was getting a lot of play, right? Whenever they didn't start the starters, they were running a lot of their offense through him. I don't know how long they're going to keep that up, right? Because I think that Reggie Jackson over time will probably, just because he's a veteran, is maybe a guy who's going to surpass him. But also Kyle Lowry. I think that I don't know how many minutes he's going to get, but I do see him being in the rotation as the backup point guard.
Well, you went right where I was going to go, Keith. There's 5 different guys on that roster that Chet just put up there with 12 or more years of experience. A little different approach taken by the Sixers this year. Instead of stacking the roster with younger guys, they've stacked it with older guys. Is that good or bad?
It depends. I mean, it really does. Now, sometimes when championship teams, if you notice, they do have a bunch of guys in their 30s on that team, right? Because you do want that leadership. The good thing about all these guys are that, like, you have Kyle Lowry, you have Reggie Jackson, 2 of the older guys. They both won championships, right? The bad thing about it is a lot of these guys, you can argue that their best basketball is behind them. So, and then when you have these guys on a team where the stars are already injured and they're talking about load management, these aren't the type of guys that you want to give extended minutes to over an extended period of time. So, it's kind of like a catch-22. Like, yeah, we got these guys, but what happens if we have injuries and we have to play them on the floor for extended minutes? Because just as much as you want to keep Joel Embiid and Paul George and Tyrese Maxey healthy for the postseason, you want to do the same thing for these guys. And these are certain guys like a Kyle Lowry. I don't know if you want to play him on back-to-backs. So, when you factor that in, it's great to have the leadership, but it's tough when these are guys that you're depending on in rotation. And think about it. All of these guys are on minimum contracts, all 3 of the guys we talked about. So, you would think that if they got better deals, they probably would have been elsewhere, right? So those are things that you just have to think about.
Well, Keith, we got like 2 minutes left. I know Bill's going to hit you with a football question, I think. Go figure.
Well, there goes Saquon.
But before you get to that, I want to get your prediction, Keith, because this is going to be the toughest year, I think, to predict for the Sixers for a long time, because there's so many new faces. There's the injury concerns, the load management efforts. How many wins do you think the Sixers get, and where do they finish in the East?
That's crazy that you asked that, because I was thinking about this earlier, right? And I kept going back and forth. So I have the Sixers at 51-31, right?
Okay.
But while that's a lot of wins, I don't have them within the top 2 in the East, right? And because of that, I feel like, and I hate to say this because I feel like the Sixers have a talented team on paper, but when we talk about injuries and we talk about load management, we talk about they'll finish 3rd or 4th in the East. And with that, I don't know if they're going to get out of the second round, especially if they finish 4th, right?
Same old.
Saying, yeah, I mean, and I hate to say it. I think that now again, if you were telling me that Joel Embiid was healthy and he was playing all like the majority of the games and he stayed healthy, and the same thing with Paul George, then I would say, you know what? I think the Sixers are going to be a top 2 team in the East. But as a 3 team, I just look at Boston and I look at the New York Knicks, and I don't know if a banged up Sixers team or a team that doesn't have the chemistry that those other teams will have by the time the postseason comes are going to be able to beat those teams. So I have the Sixers going 51-31, and then I got them losing in the second round.
Okay.
There you go.
No, what's on your mind?
I'm not going to beat you up, Keith, because we know you're a Giants fan. Everybody knows that. You already got your beating on Sunday. but I just have to say, from the Daniel Jones standpoint, he takes the heat. They're not a good football team. That offensive line is not good. Not having Barkley is the best thing that ever happened to Barkley because they're not very good. And actually they're even worse than I thought they were. They're not very good.
They're horrible. I mean, if you saw, remember they went to the first round pick. His name escapes me now.
Neighbors.
The receiver, Neighbors. So they go to him, and then they go right back to him. I'm like, okay, this is the offense.
That's all they got.
That's all they got. And he's coming off a concussion. I'm like, you're about to give him another one, right? Yeah. Somebody, I don't know how true it is, but one of my Giants friends texted me today and said, Daniel Jones has not won a home game since he got that contract. And I was like, wow. And you look at him, and he is a bad quarterback. But you're right. The team is horrible.
They need to spread some of that money across the front 5 and block.
Yeah, and
he had no chance.
He had no chance. And you know what? And I keep saying this. I'm not mad at Saquon. They did him dirty for the last couple of years. They didn't want to pay him. And then they won on Hard Knocks and said what they were going to do. And then they didn't want him to go to the Eagles. But as soon as the Eagles came with that offer, they didn't match it. They said, we can't match it. So they get whatever they deserve whatever they get.
Hey, follow this guy on Inquirer.com. Follow him on X, Pompey on Sixers, and check out the Locked On 76ers podcast. It's pretty darn good. Keith Pompey, thanks a bunch, as always.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
Chet, it's always good to have Keith with us. He is obviously he's on his job and does a great job at it. And his honesty about some things with the league and how it's all going, pretty candid stuff.
Yeah, Keith knows his stuff. He's a great job, covering the Sixers. They certainly give everybody lots of news all the time. And we got to talk about it, Bill. We know now Joel Embiid is going to be out not only for tonight's opener, but for at least the first week of the season. My question is, what the hell's the issue? They're not really saying. He had some knee issues last spring. He played in the Olympics, though. The frickin' Olympic gold medal game was 11 weeks ago, August 10th. They're saying he's ramping up. What is he ramping up from? I'm getting pissed about this, Bill. I'm an Embiid guy, but this is ridiculous.
Yeah, well, there's an article that just came out this afternoon, Chet. I don't know if you saw it. It was on ESPN where they're talking about the NBA is going to investigate
I saw,
that, and they are calling it left knee injury management. And he will miss 3 games this week is what they're saying. And apparently that's not uncommon to do an investigation like that. I've never heard of it before, but apparently it's not uncommon when the stars sit out to do an investigation. But, and this is kind of what we said, it sets the season off on the wrong foot.
Sure does.
And in Paul George's case, he's hurt. We watched him get hurt.
Yeah.
So I think we could go a little bit with that. And it sounds like George may be back before Embiid. But then when you tack on the other stuff, which you mentioned in the interview about not playing back-to-backs and all that kind of stuff, I hate to use the word prima donna, but it's almost like we're coddling this guy, and enough's enough.
And, I think the Sixers actually had a very good offseason, Maury, adding to a depleted roster after everybody left the free agency last year. They brought Oubre back. They signed a lot of veterans, like the Eric Gordons and Caleb Martins, drafted Jared McCain. I think there was some excitement building about this team. Like maybe this could be the year. And then they wait till the day before the season opens to announce that, oh, Embiid is not ready yet. He's ramping up. And then they announce after that he's going to miss the first week of the season. Are they waiting till the very, day before the season so they don't have ticket sales take a hit? The Sixers are, I think, the most poorly run of the four major franchises in Philly, and they're showing that yet again.
Yeah, and I think if you read the writing on the wall, though, when he wasn't participating in any preseason games, wasn't even going out on the court, that had to ring some bells that, hey, something's not right here. But they just waited until the last minute. And you know what, Chet, I get it. I get what you're saying. If I'm a season ticket holder, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. And I'm not going to be a season ticket holder because of it.
And our friends at Edge of Philly Sports, posted today about that very thing. Season ticket holders should be pissed. They should get some sort of a refund. You get a season ticket, and you're going to see this guy sit out so many games. Many of them planned due to the, load management. So they have a right to be pissed, and it is frustrating. Joel Embiid is a guy who has so much talent, but he's not on the court enough. And, he's never going to win another MVP because he's never going to play the 65 games that are required now. And, of course, all of this is happening weeks after they sign him to that contract extension that's paying him, $50-some million a year. Right. Crazy.
Yeah, and as a fan, too, and Keith pointed this out, if I'm wanting to go see Steph Curry, LeBron, KD, whoever your guy is, and I pay hard-earned money to go down to the game and everything that goes into that, and that guy doesn't play, talk about a way to turn off fans. That's certainly the way to do it. Maybe Embiid doesn't play either. So Steph doesn't play, Embiid doesn't play. Well, heck, you go watch a Big Five game.
So now that we've got everybody excited about the Sixers season, Bill, you ready to make our predictions?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. We have Keith at what, 51?
He said 51 and 31.
Second round.
And a second round exit yet again. Keep in mind, the Sixers last year won 47 games, and they were, a fifth seed, I believe? Or no, they did the play-in thing, so they were a seventh seed. Yep. 47 wins last year. Keith has 51. I have Boop's prediction also. I'm going to save Boop's, though, till after yours and mine. Okay. I'm going to go with the same as last year, 47 wins and a second-round exit.
And I was going to go 46 wins and a first-round exit.
Whoa.
I just don't see it. I'm especially if those guys don't play. I just don't see it.
All right, well, wait till you hear this. I asked our pal Boop, Bob Vitrone Jr., for his guess. And Boop said, and I thought he was kidding, but he confirmed he's not. Boop is predicting 61 wins, and they win the title. It will be their only title for a long time.
Was he on his stool when he said that?
Boop may have been at the local tavern.
His stool at the tavern.
Yeah, he may have been pounding a few Miller Lights. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but Boop says 61 on an NBA title. I hope you're right, Boop. I would love to see it. Hell, I'll buy you a few of those Miller Lights.
Yeah, right. I'll take the under, though.
Oh gosh. Oh. Hey, we'll talk more Sixers as the season goes along, of course. But we noted over our prior couple of shows, Philly Pressbox Radio is now part of a new small podcast network that we, Bill, are going to help grow. It is called the STT Sports Network. I can find the little logo. There it is right there. Sports Network set up by our pal Phil Stifle, host of the terrific Trending in the AM show that you can find every single morning on Phil's STT Network. He does a great job. We've talked about that. Phil has a YouTube channel also. It is the STT Sports Network YouTube channel. So check out Phil and be sure to subscribe to, again, the STT Sports Network. There's Phil. And I want to mention you can find Phil's show on there. You can also find Philly Pressbox Radio on there. There it is, the STT Sports Network YouTube channel. And by the way, Phil will be joining us on Philly Pressbox Radio in 2 weeks. That is November 6th. That's going to be lots of fun. And once again, I do want to mention, to be clear about this, it is the STT, not the STD Sports Network. STD, you search that, you're going to find all sorts of pictures that you might not want to see.
Stop it. Stop it. Hey,
I had fun with it last week. I did it again. Okay.
While you're at it, what's going on over at the Irish Rover Station House?
Well, speaking of fun, the Irish Rover Station House, you know this, has, well, happy hour specials, 24 beers on tap all the time. And Thursday through Sunday, they have dinner specials, the Rover being located on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne. They have Chef's Killer Burgers every Thursday, too. This Thursday, by the way, something special is happening. The Irish Rover welcomes Marissa from WMMR for an Eagles kickoff event. They do this all season long on Thursday nights. Bud Light Thursday night kickoff. So there'll be Bud Light specials. Plus, you can enter to win Eagles tickets for an upcoming game. You can meet Marissa. She is wonderful. I'm going to be there too, 7 p.m. tomorrow or Thursday if you're watching during the day Thursday. So be there. And then coming up on November 2nd, get your costume ready and get to the Rover's spooky drink and appetizer specials for the Rover's annual Halloween party. Always a good time. Yeah, prizes for the best costumes. The Irish Rover Station House is located on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne. Check the website for all the details. And of course, IrishRoverStationHouse.com. Where are you, Merrill? I can't find Merrill. Well, I'm going to go with...
Hey, everybody, it's Willie Nile here, and you're listening to Chet and Bill on Philly Pressbox Radio. You lucky people.
Hey, Chet, before we get on to talking birds, Robbie and Bob Ellis have been friends and followers of Philly Pressbox Radio for 10 years, pretty much since when we got started. Don't know if Robbie is able to be on tonight or not, but they've run into a bad personal situation.
Yeah, we do want to mention this. Our friend Robbie, one of our faithful listeners from, as you said, the very, very early days of Philly Pressbox Radio. Well, she and her husband, Bob, suffered a bit of a tragedy earlier this month, a fire at their home. Very heavy damage. They lost lots of their belongings. So our hearts go out to them, certainly. And a friend of Robbie and Bob's has organized a fundraising event on their behalf to be held Sunday, November 17th, 2 to 7 p.m. at Curran's on State Road in Northeast Philly. Great place, by the way. I haven't been there in a few years, but it is a great place. There will be baskets raffled off of 50-50, donation buckets, and live music, of course. Robbie and Bob love the live music. You can also donate by using a GoFundMe link if you can't attend or simply wish to donate separately. You can find all the details on the Facebook page, Helping Our Friends Bob and Robbie, as you can see right there. And Philly Pressbox Radio will be donating to this cause, and hopefully some of the rest of you will find it in your hearts to help out as well, if you're able. Meanwhile, hang in there, Robbie and Bob.
Absolutely. Our hearts are with you. We're certainly thinking about you and hoping nothing but the best as you get back on your feet. It's certainly a difficult time, that's for sure.
Yep.
All right, Chet. The Eagles took care of business with a 28-3 win over the Giants. Saquon Barkley and the defense were the stars of the game. Before we get to Saquon, Chet, the Eagles defense, do you realize in the last 9 quarters has given up 5 field goals and no touchdowns?
I do. This was the kind of statement win that I was hoping for, Bill. The first double-digit win in nearly a full calendar year. Yeah, it was against the not very good Giants team. I get that. But
that don't matter.
Yeah, Saquon was terrific against his former team. The D was awesome, lots of sacks, and they gave up 0 touchdowns for the second straight game. So just look at some of the numbers right there. It was total domination. You could relax midway through the third quarter for a change. Boy, like I said, haven't had that the case in just about a year. So need to see more of that. Keep it going. But you saw sacks by Bryce Huff. You saw 2 by Nakobe Dean. Jalen Carter had 2 sacks, I believe. So real nice win.
Yeah, and just remember what we talked about last week. Take away that 1 second down play from Barkley, and you have back-to-back dominating wins, albeit against the Browns and the Giants. So what? They're the teams on the schedule. Beat them up. That's your job.
Yeah, and you put up the standings right there. The Eagles in second place, just a half game behind the Commanders, who look like they may be for real, although Daniels got hurt early in last week's game, and they still won easily with Marcus Mariota quarterbacking and putting up 40 points. Go figure. You just never know with the NFL. But, yeah, Washington may be for real, but I think the Eagles still have a very good chance. The schedule's not crazy difficult in the weeks ahead. I think I have the upcoming games. Yeah, the middle 6 games for the Eagles. You get the Bengals this week out there. You do have also Jacksonville, Doug Peterson, assuming he still has a job, back in town. And then the big one against Dallas on a Sunday night, followed by games against Washington, the Rams, and the Baltimore Ravens. So a couple of tough ones right there. But, I think you could win certainly 4 out of these next 6, and that puts you 8-4. Not bad.
Well, there's a rumor running around today about the Rams wanting to or some trade discussion between Matt Stafford and Sam Darnold. That would be interesting. The Rams aren't that good either. And, I hate to say at this point, Chet, because the Eagles could be in this conversation if they can continue to gain some momentum. But it looks like the Chiefs and the Ravens are kind of playing in a little different league than everybody else right now.
Yeah, but, the Chiefs
and the Vikings
don't look like they're dominating any weeks. I think Patrick Mahomes is like 21st or 22nd in the league as far as quarterback passer rating or whatever, but they're getting it done. So that's what it's all about. It's about the wins. Going to be an interesting rest of the season. No quarterback is really standing out like in past years.
There was one 300-yard quarterback this week.
Really?
I don't remember who it is, but I saw that there was one.
Huh.
Yep. So interesting. But that's where the ground game and that's where Saquon Barkley and that offensive line comes in.
It might have been that Baker Mayfield because he was near 300.
Well, you know what? It might have been. It might have actually been before Monday night's game because I think they both threw for 300.
Yeah,
Mayfield and Lamar. But I think the disturbing thing to me in that game on Sunday was the first quarter. And I don't care about scoring points and all this. They played bad football. The offensive line was struggling. So obviously, so was the Giants. But until Saquon busted that big gainer, the game kind of broke open. But the Eagles' offensive line, for as good as we always look at them as being, they weren't so good.
Our buddy Kid Camden says, beware of Joe Burrow and Chase and Higgins. They're going to be a handful. And he's right. So, the Eagles D has played great the last 2 games, but Cincinnati's offense is certainly better than what they saw from Cleveland and Cincinnati. So, or Cleveland and the Giants. So, it's going to be a tougher game in Cincinnati.
And the guy that's taken a lot of heat so far, Nakobe Dean, played his tail off, and there's a good chance he's going to be Defensive Player of the Week. He put up some big numbers. I believe it was 11 tackles. Yeah, he had a big game. So hats off to Nakobe. Maybe that was a coming out party for him as well.
Yeah, great to see. It makes you feel a lot better about this team after what we saw this past Sunday, for sure.
Yep. But I'll throw out my one comment that I always like to say, Chet, you're never as good as you think you are when you win, and you're never as bad as you think you are when you lose. So just
got that right.
Stay steady, come back, win the next one, and then win the next one after that. And just for our pal Denny Malloy, where I told him what was going to happen in the next 4 games, he said, yeah, we will look at it. 1-0 for me, pal.
Okay. Maybe Denny will even give Jalen Hurts a compliment one of these days.
No, that's not going to happen. All right, Chet, what's going on with the best tailgaters in Philadelphia, Bob Cavanaugh and a gang of Cavs Philly tailgates?
Yeah, you're speaking about these guys, Bill. Cav has been cooking up a terrific catering business for more than 30 years. I think it's 35. Known best for their tailgate parties, Cavs is a 3-time winner of Philly Tailgate's Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. Cavs also does corporate events and parties, just about any kind of party. Of course, Cav hosts tailgates before all of the Birds home games. There's the schedule for some of the upcoming ones. They have games against the Jaguars, Commanders, Panthers, and Steelers. Cav will be there for all of them, cooking things up before the game. If you have any questions about pricing or what kind of events they might do for you, email them at cavscatering@verizon.net. Cavs Philly Tailgates is the way to go. Cav also works with the guys at Philly Sports Trips, Vince and Company, and they have fantastic trips for every Eagles road game and other events like Philly Spring Training. Get all the details on that at phillysportstrips.com.
Hey, Chet, one point we missed. Robert points this out. I slipped my mind. The Eagles game was flexed out thanks to the play of the Jacksonville Jaguars. A lot of fans don't mind that, not playing that night game. They get to go to a 4:00 game instead of an 8 o'clock game. Works a little better for those that get up on Monday morning. So that's a schedule change for the Birds.
Yeah, a week from Sunday, 4:25 kickoff instead of 8:15.
Right.
Eagles and Jags.
It is also,
and I think Doug Peterson will. Doug will still have a job, I think, because they just won 2 in a row or 2 of the last 3, right?
Yeah, they're playing a little bit better.
Yep.
So. Hey, Chet, I thought Wing Bowl was going to just go away and never be heard from again, but nope. Here we are. Not happening.
Hoping, Bill, you were hoping. Well, as Warner Wolf used to say, let's go to the videotape.
Wing Bowl, let's talk about it.
Some called it an exercise in debauchery. Many called it the greatest radio promotion in history. It may well have been both. It was Wing Bowl, held in Philadelphia the Friday before the Super Bowl every year from 1993 to 2018. That 26th and final one taking place 2 days before the Eagles won their one and only Super Bowl. Well, that annual infamous eating competition has now been chronicled on the silver screen, and it had its premiere Tuesday night as part of the Philadelphia Film Festival. It's a documentary that includes a slew of memorable moments captured on video, plus colorful commentary from legendary WIP morning man Angelo Cataldi and others, even former Eagles Jason Kelce and John Dorenbos. Kelce actually competed one year, and Dorenbos served as Wing Bowl commissioner for a time. Of course, the documentary also featured many of the event's iconic eaters: Heavy Kevy, Jonathan Super Squibb, 5-time champion Bill Simmons, known in the Wing Bowl circles and beyond as El Wingador, and the professional eaters who eventually competed at the Philly event and won it: Sonia the Black Widow Thomas, Kobayashi, Joey Chestnut, and Molly Schuyler. Not to mention several non-winners who left their mark, like notorious villain Damaging Doug and, Matt Dutton, better known as Sloth, who at Wing Bowl 9 created one of the most memorable moments in Wing Bowl history in the form of projectile vomit. Really, I had a nice chat with Sloth before the movie at a nearby tavern. Of course, there were lots of wingettes in the film, too. The memories. Full disclosure, I did attend 10 or 11 Wing Bowls over the years, so I was really looking forward to seeing this documentary. Did it meet my expectations? No, it exceeded them, really. Kudos to producer Frank Petka and director Pat Taggart for making No One Died, the Wing Bowl story, a documentary that is extremely well done, very, very funny at times, and one that gives viewers a wonderful look back at an only in Philly cultural phenomenon. I actually sat right behind Angelo Cataldi in the theater, and it was great seeing his reactions during the film, and then to hear him talk about it in a Q&A session right afterwards.
Those last few years, I was conflicted myself about what this was that we had. And I got one of the greatest gifts of my life from Frank Petka and Pat Taggart, because I love Wing Bowl again. And that is what that film did to me.
No word on if or how soon the documentary might make it to a streaming platform, but hopefully that will happen. Even if you never made it to a single Wing Bowl, the film is absolutely a fun 95-minute look back at an unforgettable Philly tradition that somehow lasted more than a quarter century.
Greatest thing I can say about the 26-year history of Wing Bowl is no one died.
It sounds like it was a fun time.
It really was, and the audience was really into it. I'm sure the great majority of the audience was made up of people who have been to Wing Bowls, and they remembered, pretty much all the characters that they saw on the screen. Many of them who, were also in the audience. So a good time had by all. It was a 95-minute movie, so just over an hour and a half, and it flew by. Lots of fun, and like I said, a lot of the local celebrities in the house for it. So really, really good. They're showing it again Saturday night in Philly, in Center City at one of the theaters there, part of the Philly Film Festival. And they're hoping to, get it on Netflix or one of the other streaming services before long, because people need to see this, Bill.
So the only way you could see it now is to go to one of these showings. And
and it was just last night and Saturday night. So until they get a deal to put it on one of the streaming services, That's it. So yeah, hopefully if you're not seeing it Saturday, it will make it to streaming because it's really, really good. I was pleasantly surprised with how good it was.
Well, I can tell you, Chet, I made it to one wing bowl. And I don't know, it was one of the 20 something. It was,
26 they had. Yep.
One of the later ones. I didn't need to go again. Once was plenty. It was fun. It was raunchy. It was, I know people liked it. You went, 15 times or something?
10 or 11, I said. Yeah, it's 10
or 11. Yeah.
Starting with Wing Bowl 8 and right up through 25. I don't think I got to the last one. I think 25 was the last one I made it to.
Well, interesting stuff. I don't, I would watch it. I mean, I would watch it if I had the opportunity just because I would know a lot of the characters in it. But and the good thing is no one died and it made a lot of money. Did they talk about that in this at all?
Oh, yeah, they did, which allowed them to give bigger and bigger, better and better prizes every year. But they also mentioned that WIP kind of soured on the whole idea the last few years just because of the debauchery and, a lot of negative comments from the public. And even now with the movie out, WIP does not want to do anything to promote it, which is weird. So you had Angelo on with Mike Missinelli on 97.5 last week promoting it. Very weird. Yeah, WIP is kind of saying, just forget about that Wing Bowl thing.
Well, how about that? Well, hopefully it comes out. I'd like to see it. Check it out. I think it'd be fun. And it sounds like you had a great time.
Real good time, yep.
All right. Well, hey, let's get to our weekly picks. We've been pretty miserable, but I think we're getting a little bit better over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we actually had a real good week this past week. Let me see if I can find the standings. There you go. Yeah, how about this? Boop and I were both 5-0. You lost on the Tampa Bay Ravens game, I believe. But now you and Boop are tied for first place at 18-13. I'm making my move, Bill, after a couple of good weeks. 14-17, still under 500, but just 5 games back. Long way to go. So beware, guys. Beware.
One comment about that Tampa Bay game, Chet.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to say their names because I wouldn't want it to be these guys. But Tampa Bay lost Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in the same game. Godwin for the season and Evans for a month. If you imagine losing 2 guys that play that position on our team.
I didn't know that Evans was lost, but how long's he out now?
A month.
And I saw the Godwin injury. That was a shame. They didn't even show it on replay, but I was able to rewind. It was nasty. And it was really sad because it happened with like 45 seconds left in the game that they really had no chance of winning. They were just trying, for a miracle kind of finish. So it was sad to see because he's such a great player. And, that pretty much dooms Tampa Bay's season.
Yeah. And Godwin and Evans had played with a hurt hamstring. He was questionable up to game time. He's a baller. He went out there and blew his hamstring or whatever he did, and he's out. So
let's get to the picks.
Let's get to the picks. We'll come back to our margin of victory standings and picks after that. But we don't have Boop with us, as we talked about, Bob Patron Jr. with us live tonight, but we do have his picks. So here we go. Chet, we stuck just to the NFC East this week since all 4 of them are playing, and they're not playing each other. So we have Bears visit Washington with the Bears -2.5. Questionable on the quarterback there. Dallas at San Francisco. 49ers are -4.5. Monday Night Football, the Giants visit the Steelers. The Steelers are -6.5. And the Eagles travel to Cincinnati to meet up with that Joe Burrow. Bengals -2.5.
All right, here we go, Bill. I have the sheet from our pal Boop. Bears at Commanders. Chicago has not lost since September 22nd, but Marcus Mariota stepped in for an injured Jaden Daniels to complete 78% of his passes, and Washington didn't miss a beat. Boop is picking the Washington Commanders. I am not. I don't know the status of Daniels yet. Nobody does, but I just think Chicago's been on a bit of a roll lately, and even on the road, I'm taking the Bears.
I'm taking the Bears as well.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not bought in yet on Washington. We'll have to see. Cliff Kingsbury is the offensive coordinator. He's been around the league for a while, and now all of a sudden he's a magician. I'm not buying in right yet. Dallas at San Francisco. 49ers are not playing that great, and Dallas, last we saw them, was getting thumped.
And the Niners lost a receiver too, did they not?
They did. They've lost a couple receivers.
Yeah. So Boop says, might be the perfect time for San Fran to right the ship. His pick is the 49ers. Now, I am taking the stinking Dallas Cowboys, much as it pains me to do so. I'm taking the Cowboys to win on the road. They seem to be playing better on the road this year than at home, so I'm taking Dallas.
Dallas stinks. They're not beating San Francisco in San Francisco. I'm going 49ers. Monday Night Football, the Giants visit the Steelers. Steelers -6.5. That team we saw play the Eagles isn't beating anybody, but, it's a new week.
Interesting stat from Boop right here. Since 2009, the two North Jersey NFL teams, that would be the Giants and Jets, are 4-21 in the state of Pennsylvania. How about that? His pick, obviously, the Steelers. So is mine, the Steelers.
So is mine. That's a Boop stat right there. Not anybody.
Yeah, that's a good Boop stat.
There you go. Okay, Eagles travel to Cincinnati to meet up with Joe Burrow. Bengals -2.5.
Boy, this one had me going back and forth. Boop says, why do I get the feeling Saquon Barkley is going to get just one carry in the first quarter Sunday? Hope that's not the case. Boop's pick is the Eagles. As I said, I went back and forth. Ultimately, though, I did take the Eagles in a close game.
I'm taking the Eagles.
I had a hunch.
In a not-so-close game.
Hey, by the way, I mentioned last week that although it looks like he's disappeared from Facebook, Boop is alive and well. He remains, though, in Facebook jail.
How long did he go to jail?
For some sort of post. Yeah, I don't know. He said it could be a couple of months. I don't know. Apparently, Facebook took issue with something he did. He's not sure when his time behind bars will end, but on his behalf, I'll remind folks to check out the Boop website where you can get the daily listings of TV, sports of interest, and all sorts of other fun stuff. That website, by the way, sponsored by Chick's Deli in Cherry Hill, is boopstats.com. Hang in there, Boop. Now, margin of victory pool. Kind of like the survivor pool, except you don't get eliminated if your one surefire pick loses. You do get points if that surefire pick wins, the points equating to the margin of victory. Well, we are on the comeback trail, Bill. As you can see, we all had a good week. We all took Jacksonville last week because they were playing, I guess, New England, who stinks. So Jacksonville won by 16. We all get a win and 16 points. I'm still in first place, well off last year's torrid pace, but hey, I'm in first place. That's what counts.
There you go. So who's Boop got this week? Who's he taking?
Boop is taking the Detroit Lions.
Who are they playing? Does he say?
I don't know.
They're playing good ball, that's for sure.
Son of a gun. I forgot to write mine down. I forgot to change it. I still have Jacksonville over New England. I'll get back to you on this, Bill.
Okay. Here you go. Here's mine.
You talk for 30 seconds while I check something here.
Denver. I got Denver. Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos over Carolina big. There you go.
All right, hang tight. You got Denver. Let me see who I'm picking because I did write it down already somewhere, just not on the sheet that I use right here. What did I go with?
But if you go with Denver, you won't lose any points.
Yeah, I want to go with who I actually wrote down the other day, and let me see who that was. It was either the Lions or Denver. Now I got to make sure I didn't pick either of those already. So, oh, Bill, it ain't easy being me, man.
No kidding.
All right, let's see. Oh, okay, yes, it was the Detroit Lions. So there you go.
All right, there you go. You got them. Detroit,
right,
and Denver.
So let's see. I got Detroit. Boop has Detroit, and you have Denver.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Let's move on.
Good.
Great
Moving
guest
along.
tonight in KEITH Pompey. Who's coming to Philly Press Box Radio next week?
Well, Bill, I'm going to tell you who's coming next week. I have so many pictures in here. It's tough to find everything at the drop of a hat, but I know I have them here.
Maybe we need a producer.
There we go. All right. Hopefully, Bill, we're going to still be talking next week about an undefeated Penn State football team after a trip to Wisconsin this week. Tough game because we have a guest joining us who knows pretty much about a memorable, unbeaten Nittany Lions team. He's the Goon, and he's going to help us preview the Ohio State-Penn State game the following Saturday. Goon, Keith Conlon, that will be fun. Plus, Bill, we have a second guest joining us to talk even more football. We had this guy on a couple of times last fall. Once I talked to him and once he was on with both of us. He is a longtime NFL Films cameraman, and he's also the author of this terrific book, The NFL Off Camera, Bob Angelo. Really good
He's
stuff.
great.
So
Bob
that's
is
going to be
great.
a fun show.
Goon is great. It will be a lot of fun. A lot to talk about.
A lot of fun, a lot of football.
That's right. We like football. Well, speaking of hockey,
we were.
Since we're not talking about football, the Flyers won their opener. They haven't won since. Presently dead last in the Met division. Not a good start. They're back-to-back, losing last night at home to the Caps. They're playing the Caps again tonight. Not a good start. Not a good look for this club. They can't score, and they can't stop.
This discussion won't take long, Bill. Yeah, the Flyers have been outscored 25-13, I believe, through 6 games. That's not good. You're giving up over 4 goals a game. Only scoring a little more than 2 a game. The goaltending's been kind of shoddy. As you said, the offense just not there. Matvei Mishkov, though, does have, 5 points in these 6 games. So that's good. Beyond that, they gave up 2 short-handed goals to Washington last night. They're playing the Caps again tonight.
Yep.
I don't know. Tough to get excited about this team right now.
First 2 goals of the game, too. So they fell behind 2-0, on 2 shorties. That was not good.
Let's talk more about Penn State, Wisconsin, Bill. You're going to go to the Penn State, Ohio State game next week.
And I will be with Goon, by the way.
How about that?
Yep.
Well, what are you expecting this weekend out west?
I think it's going to be a really tough game. Wisconsin's always good. They're strong. They're always strong. They're at home. They're at night. Penn State game, by the way, with Ohio State is now at noon, thanks to Fox and bums. So
you don't like that early start?
No, it's chaos at night at Penn State. It's a definite home field advantage at night up there. Noon start, so. But I think they're going to have their hands full with Wisconsin. But this is a pretty good Penn State team. We're going to find out a lot about them here this week.
Yeah, going to be interesting. And Bill, we have a World Series starting up Friday night. The 2 teams with the highest payrolls. They got superstars galore. Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge for the Yankees, Soto. In honor of the series, I'm drinking Small Ball Hefeweizen tonight.
Yeah, probably not going to be a lot of that in the next.
The Wrong Crowd Brewing in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Very good, by the way. I'm looking forward to this. Much rather if the Phillies were there, of course, but the Dodgers and Yankees classics haven't met since 41 years ago, 42. I don't know. It's been a while, but they have met a lot in those previous years, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you got a favorite?
I'm going to root for the Dodgers, and I think the Dodgers are going to win.
There you go. Me too.
And Shohei Ohtani, as I texted you, 18 for his last 22 with runners in scoring position. He's going to be pretty good, I think.
Yeah, he is pretty good. But I'll tell you what, though, and I'm going to root for the Dodgers too. But if you put this fantastic season from Ohtani stats next to Judge's stats, Judge had a better year. Ohtani's got the hype. If they were both in the same league with the same numbers, Judge is your MVP, not Ohtani. So interesting. By the way, I think I saw where that Ohtani 50th home run ball sold for $4.3 million, I want to say, recently.
And speaking of big money, the average ticket price for the series games about $1,500 a piece.
Oh, I think it's on the aftermarket. They're up at like 8,000 or something ridiculous.
Crazy.
So, there you go.
Wrap it up, Bill.
All right. Let's thank tonight's special guest, KEITH POMPEY. Our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Cavs Philly Tailgates, PPCC 118 Raz Room. For Jim, Chet, Chesko, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll join Philly Press Box Radio next Wednesday, October the 30th at 7 p.m. You can see us live on Facebook, on our Philly Press Box Radio YouTube channel, and STT Sports Network. Listen on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the others. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans.
Let's do the song. 1,